Welcome to this sacred space. My name is Ezra. I'm a white woman with long brown hair. I'm wearing a pink and white striped shirt, a turquoise jacket, and a gray cap. On behalf of First Unitarian Church of Wilmington, Delaware, I welcome those of you in the sanctuary and online to our worship service. We welcome you because of your unique identity, unique spirituality, and because you are capable of love. Let us start by greeting those online by waving to the camera on your left. Now please greet one another. Today we are lucky to have the music of Linda Henderson on the piano and choir under the direction of Kathy Harris. This morning we are contemplating the difference between a mindset of abundance versus scarcity. And now let us prepare our hearts and minds for worship.
Good morning. I'm the Reverend Larry Piers, minister here at the First Unitarian Church of Wilmington. If you're new and visiting us today, maybe for the first time, you may be wondering, why are a lot of people wearing hats, right? Well, it's because we're a very formal church. We're also a very playful church. And I got the idea, actually, from Dale. Do you mind standing, Dale? She said, you know, there used to be a time where we had wear your hat to church Sunday. So I built on that idea, and I decided, yes, let's wear our hat, but let's also take our hats off to all the people that are engaged in one way or another in making what it is that we do to live out and support our mission happen. So we'll have a portion in the service where we'll be taking our hats off to various people in our congregation. So join us in our call to worship, which we will do together. I will do the part that will appear on the screen of the reader, and then there's a part that says the congregation. Ready? Okay. Let us worship with our eyes and ears and fingertips.
Let us love the world through heart and mind and body.
We feed our eyes upon the mystery and the revelation in the faces of our brothers and sisters and siblings.
We seek to know the wistfulness of the very young and the very old, the wistfulness of people in all times of life.
We seek to understand the shyness behind arrogance, the fear behind pride, the tenderness behind clumsy strength, and the anguish behind cruelty.
All life flows into a great common life if we will only open our eyes to our companions.
Let us worship, not in bowing down, not with closed eyes and stopped ears.
Let us worship with the opening of all the windows of our beings, with the full outstretching of our spirits.
Life comes with singing and laughter, with tears and confiding, with the rising wave too great to be held in the mind and heart and body to those who have fallen in love with life.
Let us worship and let us learn to love. For those of you at home, if you have a chalice, I invite you to join us by lighting it as I read these words by Katie Savani Gelfand. We light our chalice as a symbol of gratitude as we celebrate the abundance of our lives together. In this sanctuary, we harvest bushels of strength for one another and offer our crop with the hands of compassion and generosity. In the authentic and gentle manner of our connections, we cultivate a simple sweetness to brighten our spirits. May we be grateful for the ways we nourish and uplift each other, for it is the sharing of this hallowed time together that sustains us. Please join in body or spirit as we sing hymn number 18, Remain Standing After, for our unison affirmation. Please join me in affirming our mission. First Unitarian Church of Wilmington is a beloved community that nourishes minds and spirits, fights injustice, and transforms the world through loving action.
So, what are we going to do now? Well, we are going to name all the various groups in our congregation that help one way or another to create our experiences on Sunday, our work during the week, both in the congregation and in the wider world. And at certain points, we'll be inviting you to take your hats off to those people. So we'll have several segments. But get prepared to take your hats off when you're told to do so. So, please stand if you're part of the group that we mentioned, and remain standing. And if you're part of more than one group, you can stand and raise your hand. When you run out of hands, you can raise your feet. Okay. So, first, let's prepare to take our hats off to those who participate in nourishing our minds and spirits through worship, pastoral care, and education programs. Please stand and remain standing if you serve as a worship associate or prepare Vespers services. If you provide music in our adult choir, through our children's choir, ensembles, trios, instrumentalists, song leaders, or the music committee. If you serve in our children's, youth religious exploration program as teachers or guides, advisors, the CYRE committee, our Whole Lives team, our youth planning team, or make snacks every Sunday for that program. Ready? Hats off to you all. Okay.
Thank you. You may be seated. Okay, next, let's prepare to take off our hats to those who live out our commitment to being a beloved community. Please stand and remain standing if you serve as a pastoral care associate and our caregivers group and our yarn group. Facilitate any of the small groups, Brown Bags, Soul Matters, Connection Circles, Creativity Matters, Chanting Society, etc. Please stand if you welcome and guide newcomers through our membership table and our welcoming table. Welcome newcomers and members as ushers and guides.
Greeters.
Maintain our First Unitarian library and archives. Curate our art gallery and our monthly Creativity Matters art displays.
Hats off to all of you.
Thank you, have a seat. Let's prepare now to take our hats off to all those volunteers who provide ongoing support to our members and our programming. Please stand and remain standing if you provide communication support through editing our e-newsletters, our website, answer the phones, or do other office support services. Keep our buildings or grounds maintained and beautiful. Participate in the marketing and outreach team, social media outreach, or our 202 sign messages, etc. Provide live streaming of our worship, memorial service and programs and other audiovisual support as part of our AV team. Hats off to you all.
You may be seated. Thank you. Next, let's prepare to take our hats off to those volunteers who help in the governance of our congregation and in finding and sustaining all that our congregation does. Please stand and remain standing if you participate in the governance of our congregation as a board member, nominating committee members, strategic planning committee member, governance committee, and the finance committee. Please stand if you help with the raising of funds, managing our finances and investments in our Heritage Fund, biannual auction, coffee and chocolate equal exchange sales.
Hats off to all of you.
I'll do that one, I guess. Okay, please stand if you help us in our search for ministers or music directors. And let's prepare also to take our hats off to these volunteers who live out our commitment to fight injustice and transform the world through loving action. Please stand and remain standing if you serve on any of the human rights task force projects, support the CAPAS Asylum Program, UU The Vote, UU Service Committee, book groups on social justice topics, demonstrations for democracy, UU Delaware Advocacy Network, the Delaware Peace Week, whether you or you serve on the Environmental Justice Task Force, through efforts of education, advocacy, and lifestyle changes such as the vegan potlucks, provide support to young adults through our independent living for young adults as they move from foster care into their work, school, or apartments. prepare and serve meals once a month through our participation in the Emmanuel Dining Room program, connect with our larger denomination as part of the Delmarva cluster of congregation or General Assembly delegates. Okay, let's look around at everybody. Great. Hats off to you all. You can be seated. So together, we all live out this mission of our congregation in very tangible, realizable ways. First Unitarian Church of Wilmington is a beloved community that nourishes minds and spirits, fights injustice, and transforms the world through loving action. So now, let's take hats off to all, to everyone. And as part of our theme, we will sing the song, From You I Receive, and we'll hear it. And then during the second verse, the children may begin to go to their programs and join Catherine. Oh, Catherine, I couldn't see you under your hat, Catherine. Catherine in the back. Okay. Let us join together now in a time of prayer. Opening our heart to our heart's deepest desires for ourselves or for our world. Extending our imagination to include everyone in a love that is greater than the love that we could even imagine. Striving for a justice that rolls like a river and knows no boundaries and captures us into works of justice. The prayer this morning is excerpted from a New Zealand prayer book. For the hungry and the overfed, may we all have enough. For the mourners and mockers, may we laugh together. For the victims and the oppressors, may we share power wisely. For the peacemakers and the warmongers, may clear truth and stern love lead us to harmony. For the silenced and the propagandist, may we speak our own words in truth. For the unemployed and the overworked, may our impress on the earth be kindly and creative. For the troubled and the sleek, may we live together as wounded healers. For the homeless and the closeted, May our homes be simple, warm, and welcoming. For the vibrant and the dying, may we all die to live. You may add a few of your own here, for the, and complete that sentence, for the. I invite you to speak it aloud in this room as you feel led.
For women in countries further marginalized.
For all of these concerns, and for those concerns that have yet found words to be uttered, may we hold all in our loving, compassionate heart. And let everybody say, amen. Amen. Now we'll have a brief time of silent reflection together and move into our musical meditation from there. Thank you, Linda. Before I move into my sermon for this morning, I just want to pause and recognize, as maybe you did, how many people in our congregation volunteer in one way or another, right? Wasn't that amazing? We have an abundant supply of volunteers, but if you feel left out, as it says in the scriptures, we are preparing a place for you. Now, I'm sure most of us have heard the children's story, Chicken Little. Let me review the plot very quickly. Major plot line: the main character, Chicken Little, gets hit on the head by an acorn. She assumes the knock on her head was caused by the sky falling. Chicken Little then runs about in panic and in dread, declaring, "The sky is falling, the sky is falling." She decides she must tell the king. She organizes her other farmyard animals to accompany her to tell the king. And everyone along the way declares that the sky is falling. Well, let's feel part of the crowd for a moment. A count of three, let's say the sky is falling twice. Ready? And out of an alarm, the sky is falling. The sky is falling. Great. So their panic propels them. Their fear absorbs them. Their mindset drives them into irrational reactions. No one thinks to challenge Chicken Little's assumption. Some trace this story of Chicken Little to a Buddhist teaching story, the sound that hare heard, H-A-R-E, not H-A-I-R. In that version of the story, the hare goes into a panic when he hears the sound of fruit and nuts falling from trees and assume that it is a sign that the world is coming to an end. Immediately, his proclamation that the world is ending initiates a stampede among all the animals, herds of deer and bear and boar, buffaloes, oxen, and rhinoceroses. Just as they were about to plunge off a cliff in their panic, a lion notices what happens and roars 3 times to stop them in their tracks. The lion leads them to investigate what had actually happened to cause their panic and reassures them that it was only the sound of fruits and nuts falling from the trees that created that noise. Indeed, it was not the end of the world. In the teaching story, Buddha often explains that in the past life he was a lion. In the teaching story, the lion becomes that part of ourselves that can keep our composure, that can differentiate between emotions and observable facts, that can regulate in the midst of panic. The lion's roar is always there within us to call us back when we take our assumptions as facts, when our mindset sets us off in erratic reactions before we even know it. These stories, I believe, have so much to convey to us now in this time that we are in. We need to access that perceptive, mindful, observer self within all of us. And when necessary, we need to call a halt to mindless reactivity that can entrap us. We need to find our lion's roar within us and among us. So let's practice Ready? Count of 3. Give me your best lion's roar. 1, 2, 3. Ooh, that was good, but that was a practice roar. So give it one more try. 1, 2, 3. That will come in handy in the times that we are in. In a time when so much misinformation and misinterpretation of information is occurring hourly in our country, we have sometimes lost our capacity to evaluate what's really going on, to reassess our interpretations before they become viral and take us over the edge. We become a bundle of reactions driven by inner stories we may not even realize we have taken for granted. In other words, we may be living some form of the sky is falling story and not even realize it is a story. We just assume it's a fact and convince others that our mindset, our interpretation is absolute truth. In fact, we always have a choice in how to respond. At the heart of the religious traditions, even though obscured in some of its practices, is this cultivating of a way of being that we might call the contemplative way, what in the story is the lion's composure. Religion is our way of response, and we always have a choice in how to respond to what gets stirred up around us or within us. Richard Rohr, a contemporary spiritual teacher, offers this understanding of the contemplative way. He says, contemplative knowing is a much more holistic, heart-centered knowing where mind, heart, and soul and senses are open and receptive to the moment, just as it is. Just as it is. In other words, an acorn is just an acorn. The stories that we create about the acorn are the stories that we create about the acorn. And sometimes we get carried away by our stories. Can I hear an amen? Over time, contemplative practices such as meditation, reflective writing, journaling, stillness, walking meditation, listening to music allows us to recognize that centering space within us before emotions or thoughts or stories take over our field of awareness. The Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh offers this insight in this way. And you've probably heard this story. If you pour a handful of salt into a cup of water, the water becomes not that appealing, undrinkable. But if you pour that handful of salt into a river, people can continue to draw water to cook, wash, and drink. The river is immense, and it has the capacity to receive, to embrace, and to transform. When our hearts are small, our understanding and compassion are limited, and we suffer. Tending our field of awareness is essential for this time that we are in. Expanding our heart's capacity is necessary to hold all that is happening. So often our field of awareness is filled with the dense salt of information and misinformation, interpretation and misinterpretation that is often hard for us to recognize when our stories have us rather than us having our stories. Following me? We need more opportunity to hear the lion's awakening roar within us and among us when these panicked, the sky is falling messages need to be called out. These messages can occur in many contexts, in our society, in our institutions, even within ourselves. Tending our field of awareness may be the inner work for each of us. Speaking forth, the lion's awakening roar may be all of our collective work in a time of intentional chaos creating activities. So let's practice our roar again. 1, 2, 3. I knew you had it in you. Our personal lives, our social lives, our spiritual lives are impacted by our capacity to engage in these practices, tending our field of awareness, expanding our heart to include more, and speaking forth the lion's roar when we need to call ourselves or others back into awareness. Let me start with talking about our social context for a moment. I don't need to tell us, but I will, that in this country we are caught now in a social and political narrative similar to the sky is falling. When our current president entered office, he made the assessment that it is the worst economy ever. I mean, I don't know how many times the word worse is used, but that's one example. It's the worst our country has ever been. Have you heard this? And then proceeded to, in one way or another, declare that the sky is falling unless we help more of the sky fall. That was a commentary on my part. I've appreciated the perspectives offered by Ezra Klein and Thompson in their recent book, Abundance, where they point out the dilemma that we are in. As part of their analysis, they point out that we are right smack in the midst of a decline in a political order, and we haven't yet found our way forward. Consequently, we are susceptible to competing and compelling narratives, luring and lulling stories, misinformed and meandering mindsets that are causing havoc each day. Quoting Gary Gerstel, Klein and Thompson point out, and I quote, "For a political order to triumph, it must have a narrative, a story. It tells itself about the good life." That's worth repeating, you're right. For a political order to triumph, it must have a narrative, a story. It tells itself about the good life. So let's just reflect on ourselves for just a moment. How often are we day to day telling a story or a narrative about the good life? And if we aren't, what do we tend to do instead? Give me an example. Someone you know, someone in your neighborhood, someone you've heard about. What else might we do other than telling a story about a good life? Wail and despair. Isolate. Grasp for something. Complain. Complain. Be the victim. Live in fear. What did you say? Binge Netflix. complain a lot. So recognize, was there someone else? Drink. Hibernate. So let's recognize that we have a choice in how to respond. And the choice that might be unpracticed in us might be that choice to tell a good story, a good narrative about our future. Not to avoid what's going on, but to create something alongside of what do we want to see happen. Do you hear what I'm saying? Otherwise, we are like that herd of boar that are running off in a reactive stance to the edge of a cliff. And we need to practice our lion's roar now and then to call us back to also tell a story or narrative, a good story about our future. Right? So we have a choice. So many of our narratives, no matter from the right or from the left, I think sound like some version of the sky is falling. They put it this way, Klein and Thompson, today's politics are suffused with cynicism and pessimism about governance because a way of living sold to us as a good and achievable is no longer good or seems no longer achievable. They argue that both the political left and the political right, quote, understand that the story that has been told by the establishments of both parties have come to an end. And they give examples from both sides of the political spectrum that come from this mindset of scarcity. Mindset of scarcity. So they point out, right-wing populism seeks power by closing doors, halting change, and venerating the businesses and dominance hierarchies of the past. Scarcity is its handmaiden. So too is the sense that governments today are weak and corrupt, and therefore that strong men are needed to see the world clearly and deliver on democracy's failed promises. That's an underlying narrative that we're seeing played out in ways that we might not have necessarily connected the dots around. Another specific example on the right, they say both Vance and Trump in the most recent political election blamed immigrants for the inadequacy of housing supply. Vance stated it this way: illegal aliens competing with Americans for scarce homes is one of the most significant drivers of home prices in the country. Scarcity politics, a scarcity mindset aimed towards creating fear and hate and suspicion of those who may be unlike ourselves. Klein and Thompson also point out that liberals, hold on for a second, liberals, they practice their own version of scarcity politics. Yes, preacher, they do. Zoning regulations in liberal states and cities that restrict housing supply have increased cost far more than the recent influx of immigrants. These restrictions exacerbated an affordability crisis that was then harnessed by the right. Both right and left, in other words, have operated from a scarcity politics. And Klein and Thompson say it's a choice. I say it's a mindset. This scarcity mindset is so persuasive that it has contributed to our impasse in actually finding that narrative that will carry us forward rather than continue to lead us so close to the cliff. We don't recognize oftentimes how much we have been captured by this narrative, and that's why we need to be able to observe and to stop ourselves every now and then and say, what narrative am I currently living out? Is this based on abundance or scarcity? Although both right and left are complicit in making choices about housing, healthcare, jobs from a scarcity narrative, we've observed in these recent months of the current administration a scarcity sky is falling narrative run amok. We have a choice. And Klein and Thompson point out that Trump did not run on a compelling vision for America's future, but he had a choice. There was a choice. And I'm going to quote them. Trump could have run on bringing the Texas housing miracle to the nation. Instead, he ran on closing the border. That was a choice. He could have run on the success of Operation Warp Speed. Instead, he has disowned it as his coalition has rebuilt itself around skepticism and of scientists and vaccines. Elon Musk has led some of the most innovative companies of the modern era, but according to the earliest reports of his role in the Trump's government, he is focused on slashing what government does rather than imagining what we could do. As the truth of Doge's actual impact becomes more and more to light in recent days, we recognize how luring and delusional a narrative of scarcity can be. It can seem like you're doing something when you're cutting budgets, eliminating jobs, or reinstating jobs that you eliminated. It can seem like you're accomplishing something when you cut budget items for so-called entitlement programs and then create breaks for the already economically entitled. Do you hear what I'm saying? The real cost in actual lives around the globe of this slash approach is gradually and steadily becoming apparent. Perhaps you saw the estimates shared this week from a study at Boston University, an estimate that nearly 300,000 people have already died due to the cuts the United States has made to foreign aid. It's really hard to see this as political and not moral. It's really hard for one heart to hold so much loss. So we have to hold it together as we try to make sense of a narrative that will allow us to move forward with more compassion, more kindness, and more forthrightness when it comes to justice. The real cost in decreased capacity and established expertise is not even considered as long as you can manage to project some big numbers of budget cuts, even if it has no real basis in facts. The mindset of the sky is falling, that we are in some kind of extraordinary crisis that requires slashing, destroying, eliminating, has taken over, and many of the barnyard animals in our government have joined in the march toward the edge of the cliff, drowning out the moral implications, which are slowly and surely and sadly coming to light. We need a lion's roar to bring us back to the facts and to bring us back to our senses and to our moral sense. Let's have another lion's roar. 1, 2, 3. Slashing is easier than building. Slashing budgets is easier than building towards a possible future. There's a contrasting perspective, and I'll close with this because of our time. Klein and Thompson offer the contrasting perspective of abundance as an alternate choice to the choice we often make from a scarcity mindset. In their exploration, they frame these questions to move from a scarcity to an abundance mindset. One question is, what is scarce that should be abundant? Take a moment now and ask that question. What do you notice is scarce in our society? in our world that should be abundant? Housing, empathy, common sense, healthcare, honesty, kindness, love, access to food. So these are the kinds of questions that move us beyond that scarcity mindset, that pave the way for art to say, what do we need to create, rather than what do we need to slash? The second question they offer is, what inventions do we need that we do not yet have? What inventions do we need that we do not yet have? This is an open book exam, so what would you offer? Small housing.
Deep fake detectors for AI.
Okay, deep wave detectors for AI.
Safe energy.
Safe energy. A new bird flu vaccine. Pleasant, affordable, shared transportation. A substitute for food, okay. So our list could go on, and some are trying to move us quickly towards snack. By asking different questions, we develop a different mindset. The alternative is a mindset of abundance that comes from a narrative of creating more good rather than merely more goods. So that's our work, to create more good, to figure out what our part as a congregation is to create more good in whatever place we create shadows in our world, in whatever place that we intersect with need and aspiration. We can live with that question this week as you're doing the dishes. What good can I be part of creating in this world?
We now invite Isabella Weber, who is the Vice President of External Affairs of Planned Parenthood of Delaware, up to speak. Today we are sharing our offertory to forward the important work of Planned Parenthood. Isabella.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me here today. My name is Isabella Weber. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Vice President of External Affairs at Planned Parenthood of Delaware, and I also happen to be a member at the UU Society of Mill Creek. So it's so lovely to be here this morning in the company of friends. So as probably many of you know, Planned Parenthood has been in Delaware for more than 90 years. We provide a wide range of reproductive healthcare services, including contraception and testing for STIs, treatment for HIV, as well as testing and counseling. Lots of people, of course, know that we provide abortion care in Delaware, and we're really proud to provide that care. It's really important care, and it's also a really small percentage of the services that we offer. We have a whole behavioral health counseling program, so people can come to us for anxiety and depression. We have a gender-affirming care program, so folks who are non-binary or transgender who are looking to medically transition, we can help with hormone therapy. We have a whole range of education services that we provide across the state, programs for families, programs for LGBTQ teens, and we have comprehensive sex ed programs in schools across the state of Delaware. So there's so much that we provide, and we're really, really proud to provide it. Of course, as Reverend Larry talked about, we're in these really kind of wild and unprecedented times, especially for reproductive health care and especially for Planned Parenthood. Unfortunately, they've launched a sort of direct attack on Planned Parenthood at this time, and we're facing kind of new threats on a daily basis. And so it's definitely a scary time, and it's an uncertain time for us. And we know that, sadly, the sort of most heartbreaking piece of it all is that people who live in rural areas and people of color and people with low incomes are going to be the most impacted by these types of cuts. And that's really heartbreaking to me. The majority of Americans support the work of Planned Parenthood, and so as you're not alone in your support for Planned Parenthood and the services that we provide. And so I think I'll take a page from Rev Larry's book to say, let us create our story, let us create our reality, and let us rewrite the narrative where every person has access to the care that they need, where every transgender person has access to the hormone therapy that feels right for them so they can live in a body that feels more aligned with their gender. Let's create a world where every person who needs abortion care can access safe, legal, loving abortion care. Let's create a reality where every teenager has access to the information and the tools that they need to protect their health, because that's what we're all about. So thank you so much for having me today. Thank you for sharing your plate with us. It means a lot to us to know that we have so many supporters in this great state. Thanks.
Thank you, Isabella. There's just a heads up notice that starting next week, not this week, but next week, we will be using a new 10-digit number for text to give. On the screen, hopefully you see the new number and a message that you will receive if you use the old number starting Tuesday. For today, continue to use the old number if you use text to give. Please join me now in dedicating our offering. To the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives and these, our offerings.
We
extinguish the chalice as I read these words by Sidney K. Wilde. In this community, we give and we receive. May we go forth now to share the bounty of our love.
So today we took some time to acknowledge and to celebrate our volunteers. And we have a cake in our parish hall back there. It has written on it, hats off. Help yourself to some cake, and there's some vegan and gluten-free options as well. Next Sunday is our flower ceremony, our flower communion. So bring a flower to church with you, and we'll assemble them here and engage in that ritual that happens once a year in many Unitarian and Universalist congregations around the country. Next Sunday, we're going to celebrate Kathy just a little bit. We're not going to get carried away. There are 3 tables in the parish hall for some key areas where we need volunteers. One is office volunteers, so you'll see a table that has some description for that. The other is our table for children and youth religious exploration programs, and the other is our welcome table. But you know what? And then summer camp, that's a big newsprint pad in there as well. You know, we have been asking for people to welcome newcomers at our welcome table on Sundays every week, it seems, in our e-newsletter. That's a little bit of an exaggeration. I am just wondering if there's 1, 2, or 3 people in this room right now that might want to be that welcoming presence on a Sunday morning. You get to pick your own Sunday to be there and engage with people who are newcomers. Do we have anyone in the room? This is the altar call. Okay, stand up so we can see you. George, thank you, George. Let's give George a hand. Eloise, stand up. Anyone else? Come on, right now. Who else? Megan, are you standing? Yes, Megan. All right. Okay, Ed. All right. Anyone else? Going once, going twice. Okay. Okay, there's someone else there, back in the back. Okay. So, for our closing words, it's the first verse of our closing song. Make channels for the streams of love, where they may broadly run, and love has overflowing streams to fill them, everyone. Stand as you're willing, able, embody your spirit to sing hymn 299, Make Channels for the Stream of Love.